So, Philippa, so when people are at work and they feel like they're completely drained of energy and crash and burn and really don't know where to go, and they might be highly sensitive, how do you as a highly sensitive person, and you've been there, how can you recognize it for yourself? How can people recognize it?
Oh, what a great question. And I have to say, everything I'm going to say is with the benefit of hindsight, because I did not know I was highly sensitive when I was working as a corporate lawyer, when I was working in all these structured environments. And I only discovered I was highly sensitive, I kind of forget, probably 3-4 years ago now. And I sort of had left that then for other reasons, but I definitely can reflect back on the way it was then, and what I might have what I would have recognized if I'd known more. So yeah, gosh, where do we start? Because being highly sensitive, I mean, for me, discovering I'm highly sensitive has been wonderful. It's made so much sense. It's given me great insight into myself, and I don't know, help me see strengths that I didn't appreciate were strengths, I think. Yeah, so that's kind of where what I've learned. And looking back, God, I can see that I was very much, I suppose, the proverbial, is it square peg in a round hole, or the wrong shaped peg, you know, for the hole. And I think for me, the hardest thing looking back at it all is that I was actually really good at the job. I could do the job. I was a good lawyer. I was good with the clients. The work environment, and we'll come on to that in a sec, probably was a bit harder to deal with. And the main thing for me is that I looked around me and all I could see was people sort of crushing it, you know, sort of like looking like, you know, doing what we were all doing, but also inside I felt like, oh gosh, this is really draining me. This is really hard. This is and I kind of felt like I was doing something wrong. How come these lot can all look like they're all doing it really easily? And I feel inside, I had a mask on, nobody would be able to see from the outside, but inside I'm feeling like, oh, this is really heavy. This is really tough. This is kind of sucking the life out of me a bit. And, you know, as we've said before between us, you know, I used to go, God, there must be more to life than this. So you know, I think that's the first thing I'd like to say. If anybody recognizes any of those things that I've just said, you know, you're not alone. You're absolutely not alone, because
you don't know, people are feeling, you said, like there's almost like another layer on top of you. Like you feeling inside like you're drowning almost. You're feeling like, oh, there must be more to life. You're feeling drained. Well, on the outside, you're pretending to be exactly the same and coping with everybody else. It's not like, even now people think that high sensitivity is like you're getting quickly upset about things or blushing cheeks if somebody is talking to you and you're getting like flamed up, but that's not it at all.
No, nobody would have guessed at work. When I was still a practicing lawyer, nobody would have guessed that I was struggling. Nobody would have thought, oh, she can't cope with this. Nobody would have thought any of those things, because I had this suit of armor on. Don't even say it was a mask. I had this suit of armor on. So on the outside, I looked like bulletproof. Yeah. But inside, those times when it just gets too much, I hid well, and either I went home and collapsed in the evening, spent all weekend desperately trying to recharge my batteries as best I could, or at moments in work, I'd go in the toilet, shut the door, and sit on the put the toilet seat down, sit on it, and have a bit of a cry.
I know, the women's toilet is always a bit of a sanctuary. I wonder where the guys could go to, the men could go to, because that would be, they explained to me, that's not the same sanctuary for men.
Yes.
So when you say you know, inside you're like completely drained, what is it that at work that specifically was draining, you know?
Oh, yeah, there's so much. But for me, it was very much so as more and more offices did, you know, you move to more modern offices, they're usually open plan. So I started off in an office on my own, funnily enough.
Yeah.
And that was much more manageable because I felt I don't know whether control is the right word, but you know, the space, there wasn't always people in my space because I had, yes, it had a glass sort of front to the office so people could see in, but I could close the door. And I even think in that office, thinking back, I don't think we had overhead fluorescent lights either. So I've muddled two things there. One, the environment. So being in a big open plan office where there's people milling around all the time, there's people talking, there's people eating, there's printers going, there's, you know, there's noise all the time. That is just, for me, was too much stimulus all the time.
Open plans are worse for that,
Yeah,
are horrific
yeah,
for HSPs. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking back to the last job I had when I practiced. So that it was definitely open plan. The air conditioning just made the air really dry, and you could hear it whirring around as well.
Yeah.
And it was either too hot or too cold. It was never quite right for me anyway, because you can never get the balance right for everybody.
True, you can't open a window in the
No,
high risers and
yeah, no, and you know, I've always tended to run quite hot, so you know, I prefer it cooler. I tend to,
yes.
you know, especially reading long documents. You know, I was a commercial property lawyer, so I was having to read 80-page leases. You know, if it was too warm, I'd be falling asleep.
It's true, true. Nice and fresh and clean. And then if you have the air conditioning inside buildings all day, stagnant air, and then with people crammed into a space for HSPs, that's not a really good environment to be in. You're getting it's getting really stuffy quite quickly.
Yeah, it's really stale as well. You know,
Yes.
you only
Yeah.
need one person who's sort of, I don't know, been to the gym on the way to work and hasn't had a shower or something,
Yeah.
or you know, or been out at lunchtime or whatever, or somebody's got some really strong perfume on, you know,
Oh yeah, that's
or
quite
yeah,
it can
and so
get
that,
you a headache quite quickly.
oh, definitely. And you know, there are some smells that just, I always, the way I describe it is they get right in the back of my nose, and I just can't, it feels like they're in the back of my nose and then they're everywhere in my head. And I can't concentrate when that happens. I can't focus. And it makes me feel a little bit sick.
I can
So
understand.
yeah, so I have a real sensitivity to smell. The overhead lights are not great. I think some highly sensitive people will have a stronger reaction to overhead lights than I do. But also light is a problem for me because I'm incredibly short-sighted, so I need to be able to see really clearly. So but yeah, all the noise, the open plan, the stale air, the smells, and you know, picking up on the energy. So you know, it's open plan, everybody's around you, and just picking up on all those, you know, well, it is energy. I mean, some people might call it vibes. I don't know. You just get a sense of, oh, they're not very happy, and they're obviously feeling a bit, I don't know, they're irritating me, whatever they're doing.
HSPs are famous people pleasers with low
Yeah,
boundaries if they don't
yeah,
be careful. And I remember like sitting next to a person who was coping with chronic depression, and the person did the work really well, but I could just sense it draining me, and I was
yes,
trying to almost like cheer her up every day, which of course never worked because that's not like it's not like that, it's not that easy. So but you're sitting in that room full of people with that kind of energy is can be really challenging for HSPs who are also empaths.
yeah. And you make a really good point there that you know, as HSPs, empaths, we have a real empathy for other people, and we can to varying degrees. I'm not really high on the empathy scale. I mean, I absolutely can feel things for other people, but some HSPs are like much further up the scale than I am. But you know, we do have that. We can tune into people, and we're kind, and you know, we want to make things better if we can. And that's a heavy emotional load. Whilst you're trying to do the, you know, whatever else your job is, you know, that's not necessarily your job, is it? You get involved in that.
No, it's like almost an add-on. Like
Yeah,
be the lighthouse. You're trying to be the lighthouse in the space, and you just trying to facilitate everybody's needs in the same time, and read the room immediately when you're inside. And then no wonder we feel drained at the end of the day, especially in open office plans. So what is it that when did you discover in your life that you were an HSP, that you were highly sensitive?
Well, for me, so I've had several episodes of burnout, which is really common for HSPs because of all these things we've been talking about. So not only was I doing a highly stressful job, constant firefighting, you know, you never have enough time to do things properly. So you constantly write a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of that, and hopefully you can pull it all over the line. I kind of thrive on that though, a little bit of pressure. Give me all the time in the world to do something, I'm like, oh gosh, no. So because of everything else that's going on around the job, I found it really tough, and I've burned out several times. And in 2017, that was my last biggest episode of burnout. And I you know, I think, you know, I was perimenopausal by then, so my hormones are all over the place. And it's a real time when, you know, the more I've learned about it, that a lot of women late 40s start to feel a lack of confidence around what they are doing. And it's not that they can't do the job anymore. It's not that they can't hold all that information, because it does, my experience is it has come back, but it can get really tough at times. So it feels like you can't do it. It feels like you've lost that ability because the hormones are raging all over the place, and it's making that much more difficult. So I hit that stage hormonally. I was burning out again because I was then doing a risk and compliance job. I wasn't a practicing lawyer, but I was doing a risk and compliance job in a law firm. And I was trying to caretake everybody, like we've just described. It was just everything all piled into one. I had two children by then who were 9 and 7, and that was also playing into it because that was the age that I was when everything went pear-shaped for me at home in my childhood. So I had all my childhood stuff coming back to me as well. So I had a real trifecta of stuff, you know, all coming at me, and I just and I think also that I ignored all the signs in my body over the years that things, you know, were getting bad, and I lost a lot of sight in my eye. So as you know, as we have discussed privately before, we tend to be, something happens, and for me it was losing the sight in my eye. So sorry, that's a very long answer to your question. I ended up going to therapy. I kind of had a, you know, on the lying in the fetal position on the bedroom floor moment of I can't do this. And all of a sudden, all these podcasts I was listening to, people were talking about high sensitivity, being a highly sensitive person, and I started paying attention. And I was 50. I was 50 and 49, turning 50. And I was like, I think this is me. I do think this is me. And the more I listened, I paid more attention, and I thought, gosh, this is me. And it really helped me look back at things and make sense of the way it had been in my life, and has really kind of given me a blueprint, I think, to move forward from there. You know, so 5 years on now, I know about managing my energy. I know I can read the room and feel what's going on and what people need in that room. I know that I've got that big picture thinking where I can hold all the different elements of what's going on. I can also do the detail. But you know, I kind of know where it sort of where it's a strength for me, and I can work with that, and I can see those things as real positives for me, because not everybody can do them. But mainly I can manage my energy, and I can show up as the best version of myself, really. I mean, not all the time, don't get me wrong. Gosh, it's not like I've got it nailed and life's always rosy.
It doesn't work like that. Like you're seeing the positives now, and you're spot on with saying that, you know, women, especially women who are older and used to premenopausal and young children at home, women are so hard on themselves to be superwoman, you know, being the best mom, being the best wife, being the best employee, and just having that super career, and also dealing with the hormones and trying to rationalize it all and say, this is whatever's happening in my body, I just ignore it. Everybody's getting on, and I have to deal with it like properly like this, and it's not working. What would you recommend women who are listening, what they can do if they're recognizing their story in you?
Oh, what a good question. I think so. I always say that knowing a bit more always helps. So raising your awareness. So at least the first thing is you know, just listening to us having this conversation. I'm hoping some people listening, some women listening, are going to go, oh, you know, a little light bulb might go off and think maybe that's why I'm finding it hard at the moment. Maybe, you know, maybe there is something in this, and it's not just that, you know, whatever bad words we choose to say in our head to ourselves.
You're not broken. You're not.
Yeah, broken. You're not broken. You're not, I don't know, can't do this anymore. So be aware first, because I think being aware really helps that bad talk, that negative talk that we do in our heads, because that is really not helpful. And we never can we can't make change from a place of judging ourselves and being mean to ourselves. You know,
it's true. Self-talk.
Yeah.
Be nice to yourself, and it's okay. Whatever's ever happening, you have to sort of listen to it, listen to your body. You got like your vision got impacted, and there's a link as well with the body and the mind are always connected. It's trying to give you a message. And if you don't listen, it's getting worse and worse until you break down or burn out, and then you have to listen.
So that's kind of the second point, I'd say. So thank you. You've segued us nicely into that. But once you've got an awareness, it is kind of like, okay, listen, what is your body trying to tell you? What is going on that wants you to take notice and make some changes? And then those obviously the changes are going to depend on what you've understood from listening to your body. But it could be, I don't know, it could be, you know, you need, it's hard, but it could be you need some more time on your own. You know, I never realized until the pandemic that I'm actually quite an introvert. I would always have said, and other people around me would always have said I'm an extrovert, because we have this, not that labels matter, but and because they don't, but everyone's always had this idea of me that I'm, you know, I'm quite gobby, I'm, you know, I'm a northerner, I'm, you know, I'm loud, but and we tend to think of those people are extroverts, and introverts are sort of like the quieter, more shy people. Well, that's a load of rubbish, actually. You know, it's much more about our energy management. So
yes, exactly, that's exactly it.
Yeah, you know, so can you work out, do you need to be around other people to recharge your batteries and get your energy back, or do you need to be on your own? And I absolutely need to be on my own, absolutely, to recharge.
That's such a good point, because many people think that introverts are like shy people on the background, but that's not true. You can see really popular people right in front of the party, but then they go home and just completely recharge by themselves. Yeah, that's a good point between extroverts and introverts.
Yeah. So if you can you work that out? Can you like when do you feel at your best? So can you pinpoint those moments when you feel at your best? Is it when you're on your own? Is it when you're with other people? Is it when you're in nature? Is it when you're, so I love water, and I've rediscovered cold water swimming. I am in my element when I'm swimming around in cold water.
I always wanted to do that, but there's always an excuse. I'm too far away from the water. I love that.
Yeah. So I'm on my second winter, and it's really opened. What's it opened? I suppose it's opened me in a way. It's reminded me as a child, I loved the water until I used to get shamed for being a fat kid, and then I lost my love of water. But I've rediscovered that love of water, and it's not about the exercise. I mean, yes, I do swim. It's about doing something that makes me feel really good. And that's not selfish. It's not something I should put off. It's absolutely essential for me to be at my best. And if I'm at my best, then other people around me get the best version of me. My family definitely know that I am so much nicer to live with now. A bit tougher, actually. Yeah, sorry, I was just going back to your boundaries point earlier. So a little bit more boundary, so maybe a little bit tougher, but so much nicer. So sorry to interrupt you then. What were you going to say?
No, I hooked into there. Like you said, your family has the best version of you if you were be able to recharge on time and do your cold water swimming. And that's such a good point. If you're high sensitive, you have so much to give as well, so much light to give with the world as you feel the world and hear the world more intensely. And there's only one way. You set your boundaries there and then recharge on time, and then only then you can give, just by being you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yes. And I think what also it brings is those. So I remember back to working, the corporate job, and actually I do work in a law firm again now, but I work in a smaller one, and I work in one where I'm dictating my hours a bit more. And so I am still doing the job now. Actually, I went back about 18 months ago, but I'm doing it as a different version of me and in a different way, which is really interesting. But what it does bring is that I've moved away from that, right, just get through the week and get to the weekend, and then I can have I can have some time away from work. That was like the aim, just 2 days off work before. Whereas now, every day, there are just little moments of joy. Like having this wonderful conversation with you is a moment. I'm really in this conversation with you, and I'm really enjoying it. And this is a moment of joy for me today, as will be my soggy, because it's raining, dog walk. And who knows what I'm going to find. There's probably going to be some more spring flowers that have come up. There might be a rainbow if the sun comes out.
I love that.
And then I'll come home and probably have, I've got some more work to do at home, but I'll have a nice cup of coffee. And those moments all bring me joy. And they're little moments every day. And they're the opposite of head down, not noticing anything, praying for the weekend.
Little moments every day in bed, all these little moments every day.
Yeah.
I love that. And so it's such an important message for people. Don't just try and sit it out and wait till the weekend comes and then enjoy little moments. What is your one last tip for people who resonate with your story? They feel like completely burned out. They feel like inside there's more to life. They juggling children and they're juggling premenopausal, and they think, I'm done. They think I'm done in life. There's many people out there like that. What would you say to them? Where can they go?
Oh gosh. And sending so many good vibes and love to people who feel like that, because I do recognize that. I suppose one thing I'd like to say, it really is never too late to make changes. It really isn't. So please don't feel that there is nothing you can do, because you absolutely it's never too late. You're never too old, and it's never too late. I've known people who've brought amazing changes into their lives in their 70s and 80s. So seriously, it is never too late.